3 bone-chilling home invasion stories that will haunt you forever. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the quiet suburban streets. It was the perfect setup for dread. 3 homes, 3 families, each one a target, each one gripped by fear that would claw at their hearts. The chaos that unfolds is enough to chill anyone to the bone. Picture it, a couple sitting on their couch, snug in their world, when suddenly the front door bursts open. Who is there? What do they want? In that split second, life as they knew it shattered into a million pieces. Strange things begin to happen even before the invasion begins. In one story, a single mother hears whispers outside her window late at night. Not the careless babble of drunken teens, but hushed voices that send cold shivers down her spine. She peers outside, but the yard is empty, the street lights flicker, leaving her with gnawing dread. Something dark lurks just out of view. Can you imagine the lump in her throat, the trembling of her hands as she locks the door, wondering if she's just a heartbeat away from terror? As we delve deeper into these hauntings, that sense of unease compounds. Imagine one night, a family is jolted awake by the ominous creaking of the floorboards. Each sound was like a clap of thunder, echoing in the silence. They gather in the dark, their breaths shallow and rapid, adrenaline flooding their veins. There's an unshakable instinct to stay quiet, to listen. But what if saying nothing is the worst mistake they could make? The shadows dance eerily as whispers turn into grunts. The end of innocence is a breath away. Will they be ready for the darkness? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The last encounter is hair-raising. A father hears the faint crack of glass. His heart races, pounding like a drum. He tiptoes down the dim hall, gripping the banister tightly, while the world around him spins with tension. What fears are brewing? What demons lurk behind those walls? Just as he reaches for the door handle, a whisper floats through the air, chilling him to the bone. A voice, familiar yet twisted, calling for help. In that moment, he freezes, caught in a web of dread and confusion. Is it a trick? Should he open the door or run for his life? That question lingers. What happens next is a puzzle that may never be solved. The night wore on, thick with a heavy silence that felt suffocating, as if the air itself held its breath. Across the street, in one of those unassuming suburban homes, the mother lay in bed, eyes wide open. The whispers had faded, but the tension in her chest remained. Each creak of the house settling sent jolts of fear through her. Was it paranoia, or was something truly waiting in the shadows? Her mind raced through scenarios, heart hammering as she remembered the flickering streetlights. Get a grip, she whispered to herself, forcing her body to relax. She glanced at the clock. It was well past midnight. A part of her desperately wished she hadn't let her son stay up late to finish his homework. The other part, in a battle between comfort and dread, wanted nothing more than to hear him snoring softly in the next room. Suddenly, a loud thud echoed from the living room. It shattered the stillness like glass breaking, slicing through her last threads of sanity. Her breath hitched, and she felt sweat bead on her forehead. She pulled the covers closer, knowing in the back of her mind that hiding wouldn't solve anything. The sounds twisted and turned, growing louder, more frantic. Panic was wrapping around her mind like a vice. She decided to move. Quietly, she lifted herself from the safety of her cocoon and tiptoed towards the door. Each step felt like walking on eggshells, her heart racing faster and faster. As she reached for the door handle, a familiar noise caught her attention, a soft whimper, almost childlike. The sound tugged at her heartstrings, confusing her with a mixture of instinct and dread. Max? She called softly, hoping it was merely her son's imagination running wild. Silence met her inquiry, interspersed only by another unsettling thud from the direction of the living room. With trembling hands, she creaked the door open, inch by inch, and stepped out into the dark hallway. The shadows flickered ominously, and every heartbeat felt like a countdown. She cautiously edged towards the living room, where the source of the noise seemed to be coming from. With her breath held tightly in her lungs, she peered around the corner. There, under the dim light of the street lamps cutting through the living room window, she saw a figure, a silhouette rising slowly from the floor. Panic surged through her veins. "What do you want?" she croaked, her voice barely above a whisper. The figure's head snapped towards her, and the world froze. It wasn't her son. The shape glided toward her, eyes glinting with a sinister hunger that chilled her to her core. "Help me," it rasped, its voice echoing the familiar yet haunting tone that chilled her spine. In that split second, the realization hit her hard. This voice was not that of her son but something far more twisted, a nightmare made flesh, preying on her deepest fears. She stumbled back, the horror looming before her. As she turned to flee, her phone buzzed urgently in her pocket, the brightness cutting through the darkness. Would it be the light that saved her or the alarm that sealed her fate? Time seemed to slow as she reached for it, knowing that whatever she decided next would lead her deeper into the abyss or to safety. What would she find when she answered? The truth, or another sinister trap? The darkness embraced her as uncertainty swirled around like a storm. In that harrowing moment, she saw just how fragile safety really was. As shadows merged with terror, another sound cut through, a single knock at the front door. Was it help, or had the real nightmare only just begun? The knock echoed again, a steady thud that reverberated through the quiet house, threatening to rattle her nerves loose. Her heart raced wildly as she fought the urge to lower herself behind the nearest piece of furniture. Who could it be? The question flickered through her mind like a faulty bulb, but the answer remained maddeningly out of reach. Desperation clawed at her gut. She couldn't just cower in the dark, she had to know. That voice from the living room still lingered in her ears. "Help me," it sent a shiver down her spine, and as she stood frozen, the door knocked again, louder this time, a grating insistence that demanded her attention. "Calm down, just think," she muttered under her breath, feeling the cold sweat stick to her skin. She glanced back at the sinister figure, its presence haunting and unwavering. It was drawing closer, the intention behind its ghostly stare burned into her memory. Yet, the knock pulled her mind back like a rubber band stretched to the limit. Taking a deep breath, she stepped back into the shadows, clutching her phone tightly, the screen lighting up her trembling fingers. Taking a chance, she glanced back at the living room, but the figure had disappeared. Panic surged anew. Had it vanished, or worse, was it now out to hunt her? Determined to reclaim some control, she edged her way to the front door, every creak of the floorboards underfoot amplifying her anxiety. "Who's there?" Her voice was a whisper, barely piercing the oppressive silence. "Mom, please let me in." The voice coming from outside nestled itself in her heart, a soft, desperate plea that echoed her son's timbre. It was familiar yet laced with urgency that sent her mind spiraling. But was it truly him? 100 thoughts rushed through her. What if it was the thing in the living room, playing with her mind? What if a real danger awaited just outside their home, waiting to strike the moment she opened the door? The door creaked ominously as she approached, the wood felt alive beneath her palm, thrumming with the same anticipation coursing through her veins. It could be a trap. She needed to be smart. "Max, is that really you?" she called, her voice cracking under the weight of fear. "Yes. It's me. I'm scared. You have to let me in." His voice cracked, a ragged edge that sent a chill down her spine. She hesitated, torn between fear and the magnetic pull of a mother's love. That figure had rattled her nerves, but the thought of her son scared and alone brought her to a boiling point. Breathless and forced into a decision, she swung the door open, her eyes steel on what lay before her, but nothing prepared her for the sight that greeted her. Standing there was the unmistakable outline of her son, but beside him lurked something terrible, his expression twisted, eyes wide with a familiar fear masked in shadow. Yet, it was what stood behind him that sent icy dread slithering down her spine. A figure, cloaked in darkness and yet exuding a palpable menace, loomed just beyond the threshold, waiting, watching. "Mom! Look out!" Max shouted, his voice pulling her from the trance that moment. Reality twisted as terror gripped her heart, and she knew whatever was happening, the nightmare had just begun. The door quickly slammed shut, and the echoes of chaos erupted inside, living within the walls. She stood paralyzed, the darkness of her home now felt alive. Did she just lock them all in with something worse? Suddenly, an eerie wailing filled the air, pulsing through the room like a wicked chant. What she had denied, hoped to escape, was now undeniably at the heart of her home. Was the figure she had once seen merely waiting for their moment to strike? Or was it all a prelude to something far worse lurking just outside their door? The wailing crescendoed, a ghastly symphony that seeped into her bones, twisting the air palpable with dread. She felt frozen in time, heart hammering in her chest, as if the rhythm of her life had syncopated to the haunting sound. In that moment, it didn't just feel like a home invasion, it felt like an invasion of her very soul. "Max!" she yelled, panic bubbling over, drowning the memories of him, of the innocent boy she used to know, the one that ran through fields chasing fireflies without a care. This wasn't her son anymore. The boy standing at her door was a stranger, transformed by fear and whatever darkness lurked behind. "Mom, we need to move. It's coming for us." Max's voice, desperate and strained, cut through the cacophony, pulling her from her fog of confusion. Yet, the figure outside remained a vague, threatening silhouette, its presence casting a long shadow over her thoughts. Her mind screamed for movement, but her body stalled as wrists prickled with cold sweat. If she opened the door again, would she let in the darkness? Or would she be letting her son back into their home, precious and alive? "Stay close," she commanded, her voice sounding braver than she felt. Max stepped toward her, but that dreadful figure outside stirred, its shadow growing eerily long as it moved. "Don't let it in, Mom!" he cried, eyes wide, realization and terror painting his face. In a single blink, her decision spiraled. Protecting Max was all that mattered. Their eyes locked, hearts racing in synchrony through the waves of fear, a silent agreement formed. But no sooner had they exchanged glances than a loud crash erupted near the living room. Furniture cracked and tumbled as if the very walls of their home had turned against them. She jerked toward the sound, breath hitching in her throat, fingers clutching the door as if it were the only lifeline amidst the storm. "Stay here!" she shouted, pushing Max toward the kitchen, its heavy island a potential fortress. Willing her heart to settle, she tiptoed back, inches from the door, tension rippling tangibly in the air. Right before her eyes, shadows swirled at the edges of her vision, leaching the color from the room. The wailing grew louder, an echoing cry mingled with sinister laughter that seeped through cracks in the floor. No sane person would remain here, yet here she was, teetering on the brink of insanity. With every shaky breath, she turned the doorknob again. This time, her resolve strong, eyes scanning for any hint of movement. "What do you want?" she demanded, voice more steady than she felt. Yet the silence stretched, pulling tighter until it was suffocating. Then suddenly, a shadow lunged toward the door, and in a moment that felt like eternity, the handle turned violently. She flung herself back, screaming. Max rushed in, grabbing her wrist, panic-stricken. "Mom! We can't let it win." But she could feel the darkness wrapping around her thoughts, whispering insidious lies. And just when her heart felt like it could explode from terror, a guttural voice emerged from the shadows. "Let me in." It rolled like thunder through her head, shaking her core. "What do you mean?" she rasped, forcing herself to swallow the lump in her throat. The figure outside moved into the faint light, and as it drew closer, her blood ran cold. This was no mere shadow. It was a reflection of her darkest fears, manifest before her very eyes. "Let me in," it repeated, dreadful and certain, as if it held every secret she had ever buried, every fear she had tucked away, now gathering to settle like a weight on her soul. Before she could take another breath, it tore the door from its frame, sending splinters cascading through the air and a scream bubbling up inside her. In that moment, all thoughts of escape faded. There was only the figure, and it was finally here. Yet, what weighed heavier was the echo of her son's terrified gasp. "Mom, what is that?" Standing on the precipice of terror, she knew the answer was about to shatter them both. What had they unleashed? Whatever it was, she could sense their chances of survival slipping away, and with it, a chilling question formed: was she truly ready to face the truth? The figure stepped through the jagged remnants of the door, its form coalescing into something grotesque and familiar all at once. It had her eyes, the same shade of blue that had once sparkled with mischief as a child. Yet now, they glimmered with malice, glinting like shards of ice, cutting through her strength. "Mommy," the voice was Max's, but tainted, tired, worn down by despair. "Let me in, no!" she shouted, instinct firing through her as she instinctively stepped back, pulling Max with her. The kitchen island loomed ahead, a potential barricade against this monstrosity. But as she turned her head, her breath caught sharply. The room was alive with shadows, twisting and morphing, each tendril of darkness reaching for them, exploring their vulnerabilities. The figure lingered at the threshold, its presence thrumming with an unsettling energy. "You think you can hide?" it hissed, an echo of pain masking itself as a question, awakening her own buried regret. "Hiding only makes it stronger." Max trembled by her side, his small body rigid with fright. "We have to go, Mom. Now." His urgent plea cracked through her panic, and the instinct to protect surged up in her chest, fighting against the paralyzing dread. "Where?" she managed, voice quivering, realizing the walls had become a prison. Outside, the storm raged, a torrent of wind that howled with the same menacing grief as the entity before them. The figure took a hesitant step, and the floorboards creaked beneath its weight. "Home is where I belong. It's your choice to let me in," it whispered, the air thickening with sorrow that felt both familiar and alien. Memories of laughter and warmth flickered in her mind, offering a twisted nostalgia that clawed at her heart. "Mom!" Max pulled her back to the moment, terror flashing across his face. "We can't listen. It's lying." But beneath her rage was a sliver of guilt, lightly dancing along her spine. The figure shuddered, its form flickering coldness and warmth battling within. "I know your fears, your insecurities," it laughed softly, the sound hauntingly melodic. "You can't outrun me. You've fed me, you've let me thrive." Suddenly, something in her snapped. "No. You're not my son," she screamed, and for a fleeting moment, the shadows recoiled from her defiance. But Max's face contorted in confusion, she could see him fighting against the horror enveloping them both. "Mom, don't listen to it. It's playing tricks," he hollered, but the struggle within her began to take a toll. A wave of despair washed over, and fatigue tugged at her limbs. "Let me in." The voice carried a resonant power, making her feel small, like a child before a monster under the bed. The figure's appearance began to morph, conjuring images of her past failures, the missed opportunities, the moments she had turned away. It knew her fears, as intimately as a lover would. The shadows surrounded them, laughing in dulcet tones, seeping deeper into her mind. Then, with a surge of adrenaline, she shouted, "Stay back." It felt like a mantra, a talisman to ward off the nightmare. But as the shadows closed in tighter, she realized the truth: she wasn't just fighting for Max. She was fighting for herself. Suddenly, with a roar of defiance, Max lunged forward, his small frame knocking against the figure, disrupting its hold on her, even if just for a moment. "Get out of here, Mom. I can't hold it back." The figure snarled in fury, reeling from the unexpected collision, and she saw a flicker of her son's true spirit fighting against the encroaching darkness. Together! She yelled, grasping Max's hand tightly, feeling the warmth of his life against the chill that was threatening to swallow them whole. We can defeat it. It lunged again, but with them united, a spark ignited between them, a warmth that pushed back the shadows, even if just for a heartbeat. But the figure loomed larger, wreathed in darkness, still vibrating with sinister resolve. You think this is over? You cannot escape me, I am you. And then, suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the back door, the sound reverberating with the weight of 1,000 fears. What was that? Max gasped, both of them turning halfway, dread creeping back into their hearts. As the darkness rolled around them and the bones of the house creaked under the weight of their fears, one unthinkable question arose: were they truly alone in this fight? The air hung thick with tension, a palpable dread that seemed to pull at the very fabric of the house. The crash echoed still, a cruel reminder that the horror unfolding was only part of a much larger nightmare. Max clenched her hand tighter, his little fingers trembling against her palm, grounding her in this reality, even as fear twisted inside her like a snake. What was that sound? He whispered, eyes darting nervously toward the kitchen door. The figure's growl turned low, a menacing vibration that sent shivers racing down her spine. It doesn't matter, she breathed, her voice barely a whisper. We need to focus on getting away from it. Panic clawed at her mind, urging her to run, but every escape route felt blocked by the figure, by the shadows, by an invisible weight pinning them in place. The house creaked in response, as though it were alive, walls leaning in, eager witnesses to the unfolding drama. Then, through the chaos, she felt a glimmer of something flickering against the dark, slivers of light interspersed in the shadows, pulsing like a heartbeat. The figure shrieked, momentarily taken aback, as Max's small body quivered near her. What if it gets in? His voice was a small, fragile thing, nearly lost amidst the rising storm. She could feel adrenaline flooding her system. It won't. I won't let it. But doubt settled like a stone in her gut. As if sensing her falter, the figure lunged again, its chilling voice rising above the cacophony. Run? Where will you run? Your memories are mine. Your regrets are my power. In that moment, she realized it wasn't just a battle against a nightmare being. It was a battle against herself, against everything life had thrown at her. She thought of every choice she had made, every moment she wished she could change. The figure drew strength from her vulnerabilities, each lingering regret a thread of darkness curling around them tighter and tighter, but before she could spiral deeper into despair, another crash erupted. This time, it was the back door torn from its hinges, slamming against the wall with a deafening thud. A shadow loomed in the doorway, stark and undeniable against the wild storm. Help! A voice shouted, breaking through the tension like glass shattering. Who is it? Max gasped, eyes wide. I don't know. She barked back, heart racing hastily in her chest. Stay close to me. The figure shrank back, an unfamiliar panic sweeping across its grotesque features. You didn't think you could get away so easily, did you? It hissed, the voice shifting, becoming more insistent. They won't save you. They're coming for you, too. I know them. As a man cloaked in shadows stumbled into the kitchen, he looked wild-eyed, hair matted and clothes torn. Get away from her! He bellowed, wasting no time in rushing toward them. Who are you? She shouted, feeling a glint of hope break through the surface. But just as quickly, doubt clouded her mind. What if this stranger was a part of the very darkness that haunted them? What if he brought with him another layer of fear? The figure let out a sinister laugh, drawing nearer again, the shadows eager to reclaim their dominance. Futile, all of it. Together you are weak. Alone, I am the echo of your every failure. Max looked up at her, his blue eyes shining with fright and uncertainty. Mom! He cried, desperation cloaking his voice. Trust me, she said, determination surging through her. Whatever happens, we'll face it together. As the shadows writhed against the new presence, she squared her shoulders, heart pounding, waiting for the looming confrontation, the clash between the fragile flicker of hope they had and the all-consuming darkness that wanted to snuff it out. But then, just before she could push forward, she felt a tremor in the ground beneath them, a familiar pulse that echoed through her core. The door slammed loudly, the wind howling, and she realized the storm outside was a reflection of the chaos inside. "Mom! Look!" Max pointed at the unknown man who stood hastily at the threshold, widening his stance, preparing his next move against the darkness. And just like that, hope intertwined with confusion as the figure loomed closer, hovering between her and the newcomer. Were they indeed stronger together, or was this new arrival the beginning of a nightmare layered upon nightmare? In that instant, silence fell. A heavy stillness seized the moment, but not without an unsettling promise that something wicked was about to crack wide open. The heavy moment splintered like glass as the figure lunged forward, its jagged edges tearing at the fragile breath in the room. The man stood tall, eyes flickering with a mix of fury and terror. Each ragged inhale felt like a countdown, and the walls tightened around them, the weight of despair palpable. "Step back!" he shouted, voice a gruff thunderstorm, anchoring her in the chaos. He moved between her and the figure, as if to shield her and Max with the very essence of his resolve. She wanted to trust him, but doubt gnawed at her. What if his courage was a ruse, a gleaming mask hiding a deeper darkness? The ghastly figure hissed, its form twisting in the flickering light. "Do you think bravery can protect you? I will consume you all, feed on your fears. Your shadows will be mine," it rasped, each word a dagger in the tense air. "No," she whispered. "Not this time." Her heart raced, a savage drumbeat urging her to act. She felt Max clinging to her leg, trembling like a leaf in the wind, and she couldn't let him witness this defeat. The man moved quickly, almost instinctively, darting to a nearby counter. His fingers grasped for anything, a kitchen knife, a metal canister, whatever could be wielded against this dark horror. Fragments of hope ignited within her, but even hope felt precarious as she watched him fumble. "Mom, please." Max's voice broke through her thoughts, fear wringing his small frame. She looked down at him, his eyes were wide, full of questions, full of panic. She had to protect him, had to show him that strength existed even in the face of shadows. "Max, listen to me," she said, kneeling to his level, locking her gaze with his. "Stay here. Stay close. Trust me, okay? We'll find a way out." But his lips quivered, the weight of the unknown threatening to crush him. It shook her, the thought of him caught in this nightmare. With a surge of protective fierceness, she rose and stepped beside the man, her heart pounding alongside the rising pulse of chaos. "Stay behind us," she commanded, her voice steady, a lifeline amid the storm. The figure shrank back, its swirling shadows catching the light in a sickening display, twisting like smoke through the air. "You cannot escape. You belong to me," it shrieked, voice splintering into maddening echoes. Gritting her teeth, she felt the power of desperation sharpen within her. "No. We will not submit." She took a step forward, a movement fueled by the determination of a mother willing to fight. The moment exploded, the man lunged, swinging the knife with a raw energy that surprised even him. It sliced through the dark, catching the figure off guard, and for a brief instant, her heart soared. The figure faltered, its smile contorting into rage, but it wasn't done yet. "You think you can take me?" it hissed. "I am the past you can never escape." With renewed fervor, she surged forward, adrenaline coursing through her veins like fire. Together, she and the man squared off against the malevolent force, hands shaking with the weight of their defiance. Each breath was a challenge, every heartbeat a reminder of what they fought for. The shadows recoiled, and the air thickened, wrapping around them like a vice. But she couldn't give in. The light was fighting back, and she could feel it in her bones. Just as the figure began to dissolve into an anguished scream, a flash of vivid light erupted from Max's small frame, blinding and brilliant, illuminating the room and slicing through the darkness like a beacon of hope. What? The figure snarled, confusion flashing across its ghastly features. Mom! Max's laughter rang out, clear and bright, pressing against the chill of terror, but as they all turned to him, the darkness seized that moment of vulnerability, crashing back with a howling vengeance. The kitchen filled with an eerie glow that bathed them in fragile light, but the shadows lunged forward again. Enraged, she felt a cold knot in her stomach. How had Max unleashed that light? What would happen if it went out? Stay together! She shouted, fear thickening her throat. As the figure advanced, ready to unleash its fury, she realized they were at the brink of a reckoning. In that battleground of light and dark, the question loomed: could they harness Max's power, or would the shadows engulf them all? Just when it seemed like they might turn the tide, another crash sounded from the depths of the house, and the very foundation seemed to shudder. What was that? She gasped. An ominous laugh echoed gently, sinister and knowing. You have no idea what lies ahead. And with that, the darkness surged forward. The shadows lunged forward, stretching like claws toward the flickering light. Her instincts screamed at her to run, but she stood her ground, every muscle taut with fear. Max! She shouted, forcing her eyes back to her son, who clung to her leg, his face pale with terror. Stay close. Don't let go of me. She grabbed his small hand, squeezing it tightly, but even that seemed fragile against the ominous presence that loomed before them. The man swung the knife again, its blade catching the eerie light, sending splinters of reflection cascading toward the figure. It recoiled, but only for a moment, then regained its ferocity, laughing so hard it echoed through the house like a creeping nightmare. You think that will save you? It taunted, its dank breath curling through the air. She felt rage and desperation surge within her. No. We want T back down. The words tumbled out before she could stop them, fueled by the hope of protecting her child. Suddenly, the weight of the house shifted, a deep rumble reverberated beneath their feet. The windows rattled, and she glanced wildly at the walls, searching for a crack, anything that hinted at escape. We need to go. The eerie laughter ceased, replaced by a cacophony of whispers echoing around them. You think you can escape me? The figure hissed, each syllable dripping with malice. You are trapped. The walls have eyes and ears. The man darted to the side, creating a barrier between them and the malevolence, trying to maintain the upper hand. We need something more. He shouted, peering into the chaotic surroundings. Fire. Light. Anything to hold it back. Max tugged on her shirt, his small voice cracking. Mom, I'm scared. What is that thing? Tears brimmed in his eyes, reflecting both despair and courage. She knelt, leveling her gaze with his. I promise, Max. I won't let it take you. Just trust me. If you have that light in you, we will find a way. Mom, I don't know how. His voice faltered, and the confidence she tried to instill bled into uncertainty. Then focus. Think about something that makes you happy. Anything. You have the power. It was now or never. The air thickened, vibrating with the figure's escalating rage. Your efforts are futile. It shrieked, lunging once more, its twisted form blurring as it filled the space with darkness. Time slowed as if the world held its breath. She felt her pulse throbbing in her ears, feeding the alarm of impending doom. Now, Max! She cried, a last desperate hope spilling from her lips. In that moment, the house shook again, dust raining down like tiny stars in the dim light. An unseen force swept through, swirling around Max. He squeezed his eyes shut, his tiny frame trembling as if in the grip of some ancient battle. Then she felt it, a warmth, a fierce glow that effortlessly pulsed through her, wrapping itself around her son. The shadows recoiled, screeching in frustration, flailing like moths against a flame. Max! Don't stop. Keep pushing. She could feel the energy building, a surge of raw emotion that transcended fear. Just when it seemed like the light would abruptly break through, the walls shivered, and a chilling snap echoed. Something was pulling at the very fabric of their reality. No! She gasped, her heart dropping as the figure lunged again, taking advantage of their distraction. Panic shot through her veins like ice. Amidst the surge of shadows, she caught glimpses of distorted faces within the darkness, familiar yet twisted friends and family lost to the void. You will join them. The figure shrieked, stretching its wicked arms, claws curling toward Max. Don't let it near him. She shouted, stepping forward, desperation morphing into a wild, protective fury. But suddenly, her world cracked apart when she felt an icy hand grip her ankle, pulling her down. Mom! Max's voice echoed, thrumming with fear and determination. The intensity swelled, and as she fought against the pull, a voice emanated from the heart of Max's glowing light, a whisper intertwined with power. We can face it together. As she twisted to pull herself free, the very essence of her fight crackled around them like fire. Would they stand against the shadows, or would the void consume them all? The ground trembled again, and she felt darkness threaten to swallow her whole, confusion swirling amidst the fear. But in that tightening moment of terror, did she truly know what awaited them on the other side? The chilling laughter returned, mingled with the sounds of something far more sinister than she'd ever faced. What else lurked beyond the veil? Would the light guide them out, or was this just the beginning of the true nightmare? The moment her ankles slipped from the cold hand clutching her, she felt a jolt of icy dread surge through her body. With Max at her side, their connection pulsed like a living thing, a fierce beacon against the encroaching dark. He seemed to understand the battle that was unfolding, his small frame trembling but eyes wide with a focus that filled her with hope. Max, keep your mind on the light. We must be strong together. She yelled, her heart hammering against her ribs like a desperate drumbeat. A torrent of shadows howled, swirling around them like a cyclone of despair. As the figure darted toward them once more, she caught a fleeting glimpse of its face, a mirror reflecting twisted memories of love and loss, faces that she thought were safely buried beneath time. Screams echoed from the depths of the darkness, voices that called to her and clawed at her heart. The knife glimmered as it weaved through the chaos, each thrust aimed with precision, finding purchase against the walls that seemed to stretch and sway like living flesh. Mom! Max called again, his voice trembling, yet filled with a fire that reminded her of summer's past breezy days under sprawling oak trees, laughter riding on the warm wind. Focus, my love. It's the happy memories that will save us. Suddenly, warmth surged from Max's little hand, enveloping her and feeding her strength. Think of the light, Max. She urged, feeling the flickering glow begin to pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat. He nodded vigorously, eyes closing for a moment. What do you see? She pressed. It's the sun. His voice grew steadier, even amidst the chaos. And grass, so much grass. The shadows seemed to waver slightly, as if reeling from the vibrancy of his thoughts. She felt it, too, a solidifying warmth that wrapped around them, pulling at the oppressive darkness, hurling defiance back into the void. But their small victory was short-lived. The figure's laughter returned, harsher now, filled with a twisted pain that made her stomach churn. You think you can fight me? You are merely children. Your light is weak. Fight harder. She shouted, desperation clawing at her voice. Together. The shadows writhed, transforming into grotesque figures of despair, reaching for her like ghosts, pulling her into the past. She could almost hear them whispering counterfeit echoes of love, regret, and fears to shatter her resolve. She clutched Max's hand tighter, willing the warmth between them to ignite into a raging inferno. Max, look at me. She commanded, locking her gaze onto her son. You have to believe. Remember our home. The warmth, the laughter, the love, it is bigger than this darkness. As he nodded, a brilliant light erupted from within him, casting slivers of brightness against the encroaching shadows. The figure faltered, hissing as it recoiled, its twisted form flickering like a bad signal on an old television. Just as it seemed their light could push back the tide, a new sound pierced the air, a sharp crack, as if reality itself were splintering. Desperation flashed through her. "It's coming, Max. We have to move, now." Tension hung heavy, suffocating as the walls quivered with malice. Yet, beneath her fear, a shocking clarity emerged. They had power, their bond was stronger than the darkness they must be willing to fight. Together, she reinforced through gritted teeth, barely able to stand against the onslaught of shadows. "Now, Max." But even as he summoned all he had, darkness surged again, hungry for their fear, and with it came another chilling laugh. "You cannot escape your inevitable doom. You are only delaying the moment." With each heartbeat, the space around them twisted further. Was escape really an option? Could light truly bend the darkness? One final thought crossed her mind as the malevolence lunged once again. Was their fight about survival or something deeper altogether? And what painful truths waited in the depths of this shadowy abyss? "Mom!" Max's voice shattered her resolve as the darkness lunged forward again. In that split second of terror, the promise of death loomed, whispering. Sinister secrets meant to torment. What awaited them if they fell into this all-consuming void? Could they prevail, or was all hope lost? The light flickered violently, casting odd shadows that danced like ghosts along the walls. The air around them buzzed, thick with a tension that felt unbearable. Standing shoulder to shoulder, she could feel Max trembling beside her, every nerve in her body on high alert, wide-eyed and terrified. "Focus on the happy memories," she reminded him, voice steely yet gentle, desperately hoping they could anchor themselves to something good in the storm of chaos swirling around them. The figure twisted and flickered, its form morphing like a mirage, writhing with every flash of light that punctuated the darkness. "You think I can be banished so easily?" It hissed, laughter filling the room, echoing through every crevice, dancing on their sanity. "I am the fear that lies in every heart, and you, brave little duo, you're mine." Each whisper it breathed was a claw slicing into their resolve. "No!" she yelled defiantly, her heart pounding like a war drum. The memories of summer days and warm laughter bubbled to the surface, flooding her thoughts, the feel of grass beneath her feet, the soft laughter between her and Max as they chased the fireflies at dusk. "Max, remember how we used to lie under the stars? How nothing could hurt us while we were together?" His little hand squeezed hers tighter, and she could see a flicker of understanding in his blue eyes, the embrace of love evaporating the looming dread. "Yeah. I remember. The stars felt so close." He shouted, determination bubbling up inside him, fighting through the fear. The shadows writhed around them, thrumming like a coiled spring, tightening their grip. The figure lunged, teeth bared, ready to feast on their insecurities. But Max's voice rang out stronger now, fueled by their shared memories. "Mom, the light." Suddenly, just like that, youthful innocence transformed into a shield of brightness. An ethereal glow erupted from Max's core, washing over them like a sunrise breaking the night. The darkness recoiled, hissing in furious disbelief. "What is this?" it screeched, dread leaching into its tone. The light pulsated, vibrant and relentless, illuminating the truth within their souls. "Keep pushing," she urged, rallying them both. "Let love be our last stand." As if summoned from a deep well, laughter erupted once more, but this time it was hers, warm and full of hope. Barriers began to crack, the shadows began to split beneath the force of their united will. "Together, Max. Our love is the light." The room erupted with frenzied energy, shadows being torn apart like tattered fabric. Each ripple of light met darkness head-on, igniting their way forward. It felt as though the very foundation of their home was rebuilding around them, bricks forged in determination, yearning for freedom. "I won't let you take us," she shouted. Her voice was fierce now, full of untamed power. The figure staggered back, as if it were facing an unbearable truth. This house is filled with love, and that is stronger than your darkness. With a thunderous roar, the malevolent being clawed at the light, trying to weave its way back, but it was too late. The undeniable essence of love intertwined with courage hit it head-on, throwing it back into the recesses from which it came. Then suddenly, with a violent tremor that shook the very bones of the house, the figure dissolved into a cacophony of shadows, receding like water draining into the earth. Breathless, she and Max stood in a moment suspended in time, their hearts racing as they gripped each other tightly, the warmth of light enveloping them. "Mom," Max whispered, his eyes shimmering with uncertainty, but there was a glimmer of relief too. Is it over?" She glanced around, the air laden with a cleansing stillness. "I think so, baby. I think we did it." But the struggle was far from over. Buried in a corner of her mind remained the whisper of doubt, the fear that had once been chained beneath shadows, now unfurling gently in the light. It would not disappear altogether, but perhaps it would become just that, one of many facets in their lives, deserving of recognition, but no longer wielding power over them. "Yes," she declared, the fight ever present in her heart. "This was just our first battle. And together, we will face what comes next. Always." Standing alone in the light, she felt the weight lift, the joy coursing like a river through her veins. She and Max were alive, together, unbreakable. Their strength rooted in love, they could weather any storm that lay ahead. They stepped forward into the ever-welcoming dawn, a new chapter waiting, shimmering with promise, and in that moment, she knew no darkness would ever hold them captive again, not if they faced it together. Hey! Before you leave, listen up. This is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and let us know you want more tales like this. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. True fans know the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Make your voice heard.